Managing Director. Alongside him is number 42, which is the former Formula Ford 1600 racer, which is Ian Ellis. His is the light blue car with its orange flashes towards the tail end of the field. And off the back of the field is number 24, which is Paul Clark. So that is the order in which they will line up for this first of two races here at Brands Hatch on the Grand Prix circuit. It was the fastest times in qualifying this morning that give us the grid for this race. The second race that comes up a bit later on today, it is their second fastest times from qualifying that will give us the grid for that one. So the grid is already set in reality for our second race of the day. Cloudy skies here at Brands Hatch as we heard a few little spits of rain in the air. There is due to be a little bit of rain just blowing in over the course of today, looking at the weather forecast, but it's not due to be heavy rain. It's more going to be sort of spits of rain, which could just make the circuit rather greasy out the back, and in particular the Grand Prix circuit, which isn't used as much here. The Indy circuit gets a lot of use at Brands Hatch and therefore tends to rubber up quite well, whereas the Grand Prix circuit has less use nowadays. It therefore doesn't have as much rubber laid down. There was a testing session here yesterday on the Grand Prix circuit, but also you've also got things like the leaves falling off the trees in the wooded section of the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit now, which add additional complications with those being on the track. So off they head on their final formation lap. Ross Elliott leading them round, driver who is 26 years of age. He comes from Peterborough, which is the same city as Radicals are built in. He was a former kart racer and BMW racer. He's an engine builder nowadays, Ross Elliott. Finished third in the championship last year. He's currently lying second in the championship standings. And alongside him is the number 33 car of James Pinkerton, who is based in Huntington. He is involved with engine development nowadays. He used to race and compete in Time Attack. Did the 30-year-old, so he of course is leading the championship coming into this one. Row number 2 of the grid, Dean Warren, and that's the all grey car racing at his local circuit. He's based just over the water, the other side of the Thames at Wycombe Bishops. The 36-year-old who was a rookie last year, did a few rounds last year and came in and made a really strong impression in the championship, did Dean Warren, and he has so far this year claimed a win. We've had 4 races so far. We've had 3 different winners out of those races as well. That's the intriguing thing, is that James Pinkerton, who starts on the outside of the front row of the grid, has won 2 of those races. He's the only driver with 2 wins under his belt. We've also had a win for Dean Warren, who sits 3rd on the grid in the grey car. And we've also had a win for Will Hunt, who qualified in 5th position on the grid. Did the 23-year-old Brighton-based estate agent. His car is the white and the blue one. Will, who finished 3rd in the championship back in 2018. He was 4th in the championship last year. So Ross Elliott, the man who lies 2nd in the championship standings, hasn't had a win so far, but has only had a lower finish, our 4th. So he's certainly a driver that's had the consistency over the course of this year. A 2nd, a couple of 3rds, and a 4th position for Ross Elliott. Whereas for James Pinkerton, the championship leader, it's 2 wins, a 2nd place, and the 5th being his results of the season so far. So the final bit of weaving just being done to try and build as much temperature as the drivers can into their control Hankook tyres that they all run. Hankook is the global partner nowadays for Radical, so it doesn't matter which Radical championship that you race in, whether it be those in the UK, in Europe, with their Radical championships in the Middle East, in America, and even in those down in Australia as well. They are all run on Hankook tyres nowadays. That global partnership's been in place for a couple of seasons now. So lights on the safety car. We are about to get the race underway. A 20-minute race has been scheduled for what is round 5 of the 2020 Radical SR1 Cup. They get themselves into neat 2x2 order. Remember, it's Ross Elliott and James Pinkerton on the front row of the grid. The safety car is about to peel its way into the pit lane, and we're about to go racing for the first time this weekend at Brands Hatch. Neat 2x2 order. The drivers have to wait until the lights go out before they can get the power down and propel themselves up towards Paddock Hill Bend, which is the first corner. And as the pace just begins to build a little bit more, Ross Elliott will wait for the lights to go out, and then he will get his foot down, and there we go, lights go out, we're away and racing, and Ross Elliott just has the inside line and has the advantage. All this contact further back and into the barriers, I'm afraid to say. We've already lost one, and that's Mark Williams that got caught up and was thumped into the barriers, his car having spun round and made contact with the barriers on the right hand side. But it's James Pinkerton that through all of that picks up the lead of the race, and Ross Elliott drops down into 2nd place but is under attack from Dean Warren, who's looking for the inside line, but that becomes the outside line for the next corner. So I think Ross Elliott should just about hang on to it. Then there's contact further back as well, I'm afraid, and Dean Warren gets punted around as well. So it looks as though as they head down the straight, the red flags have come out as a result of the problems at the start, and well, that was such a shame for those that were involved. In particular, it all got tight really as Mark Williams was trying to thread the needle, and we were briefly 4 wide, and then Mark Williams, having had contact made in the right rear of his car, spun him round into the barriers at pit lane exit, was then collected by somebody else. Another stricken car is Fraser McFadden, I'm afraid to say. The 23-year-old from Leeds has also got caught out, and his car is stricken. That's on the exit of Graham Hill Bend, just heading on towards the Cooper Straight, but the rest of the field slowly making their way back round under red flag conditions to line back up on the start-finish line. I think all of those that are circulating are largely undamaged. All of those that were involved have, I think, stopped out on circuit. So we'll be able to pick up on who is still missing and who is able to continue. Well, there is Fraser McFadden talking to one of our Brands Hatch marshals, who is just looking around the tail end of the car as though there's something at the back end which Fraser isn't happy with, the right rear corner of it. All of our marshals only attend the cars nowadays under these conditions if the driver doesn't give a thumbs up. And of course you can see social distancing dealt with all of the time, masks in place as well where they can't social distance. The rest of the field all threading their way back round to line up on the grid. Now the good thing, I suppose, in that there's a red flag that came out, is that we should line up back in the original grid position. So Dean Warriner, who was running in 3rd place and was tapped into that spin down at Graham Hill Bend and dropped to the tail end of the order, he in theory, if the car is undamaged, should be able to take up his grid position, which would be on the inside of the 2nd row of the grid. But the cars are being ushered down the pit lane by the look of things, rather than being lined back up on the grid. So that would be unusual to be the case. They would usually bring them back down and line them back up on the grid, but for whatever reason at the moment the cars are heading back down pit lane. Now James Pinkerton was at the head of the field. Don't think there was an official that gave him the indication that was what he needed to do, but of course he's made that decision and everybody else has followed him round. So rather than the grid filling up, the grid marshals were ready for them, look, they're all sat there and ready. However, the cars have had other ideas, and therefore we've now got a full pit lane and an empty grid. The clearing up of the cars will be being dealt with by our fantastic marshals and officials up at Paddock Hill Bend, and once all of that has been dealt with and cars removed, sweeping up being done, Dean Warriner's car being pushed as well, so he was tagged into the spin, but clearly there's damage to the tail end of that car, so Dean Warriner not looking as though he's going to be able to take up his position on the grid. Fraser McFadden's car stranded still where it came to rest on the exit of Graham Hill Bend. Mark Williams and others being dealt with up at Paddock Hill Bend, which was what in theory brought about the red flag. But this is going to take a few minutes, I'm afraid, to clear up the incident, and only once all the cars are out of harm's way, all of the circuit furniture has been rebuilt as well, because there was contact with cars into barriers, and of course if there's any oils or lubricants or coolants put down on the circuit, only once those have been dealt with and all of the sweeping up has been done can we finally get another rolling lap underway. So apologies for the delay, ladies and gentlemen, but it's just going to take us a while to try and deal with the incident. Real autumnal day here at Brands Hatch as well. It's cold and chilly outside, grey and overcast. You can see the flags on the top of the circuit commentary box blowing away there. We've got a real chill about it here today at Brands Hatch. You say always that risk of the rain in the air coming over the course of the 2 Radical SR1 Cup races that we have got today here, but also we've got the Radical Challenge Championship having the first of their 3 races of the weekend today as well. In terms of the championship then, what's happened so far? Well, we mentioned that James Pinkerton is leading the championship, so he is the 2018 champion, James. We didn't see a lot of him last year. He came out for the rounds at Cadwell Park in Lincolnshire and also did the final rounds at Snetterton and was quick when he appeared, but just didn't have the budget to do the full season last year, James Pinkerton. His car is the car that's at the front of the queue in the pit lane there, waiting to be released back out onto circuit. The 2 races at Snetterton, that was what kicked off the season in 2020 for the Radical SR1 Cup. The racing took place on the 4th of July, which was the first weekend that we were allowed to go back motor racing within the UK, and James, in the first race of that weekend, claimed the win. He also grabbed pole position for both races of that weekend and converted pole position to the race win in race number 1. And in the second of the 2 races, it finished in 5th position. Over the top of the circuit goes the Biggin Hill based 2-seater Spitfire, which is a familiar sight around the skies of Brand Hatch. Sight and sound, I've got to say as well, with the Merlin engine, just having that unique sound as it continues to entertain the people that want to sign up for one of those experience days down at Biggin Hill. Beautiful aircraft to see up in the sky. So yeah, Snetterton converted pole position to the win in the first race of the weekend, and pole position to 5th in the second race of the weekend, but it's still a solid weekend for him. Alton Park up in Cheshire was the next of the rounds where we headed to, and in the first of the races again it was pole position for James Pinkerton, and he finished in second position when the lights went out. However, in the second race of the weekend he claimed the win. And Ross Elliott, who's second in the championship, in the first race at Snetterton finished in second position. He finished 4th in the second race, and at Alton Park last time through he finished in 3rd place in both of those races. Dean Warriner, who by the look of things won't be able to take the restart, lies just a point behind him in the championship at the wheel of the track focused prepared car. He at Snetterton failed to finish off the podium in both of the races. He was 3rd in the first race, won the second, and at Alton Park, having failed to finish off the podium at Snetterton, he failed to get on the podium at Alton Park, narrowly missing out in race number 1 where he finished in 4th place, and he finished in 5th in race number 2. But it's going to take a while to clear up the incident here at Brands Hatch, ladies and gentlemen, so bear with us while we sort out the circuit and do all of the clearing up that needs doing, and we'll be straight back with you as soon as we can get racing back underway.
One remaining car, almost recovered on the back of the flatbed. We still have 2 cars on straight east up. One can be totally, the other one is on the back of the flatbed as well. So it's another 5 minutes or so before we can.
So apologies for the delay, ladies and gentlemen, but the incident that brought about the red flag at the first attempt of getting our Radical SR1 Cup race underway has now been dealt with. All of the drivers that were involved in the incident up at Paddock Hill Bend absolutely fine. The repairs to the barriers have been concluded, and also, of course, understandably, the cars have now been taken out of harm's way, and all of the sweeping up being done by our superb Brands Hatch marshals. So now the cars are being released back onto an outlap in reality. So this is an outlap. This will allow them to line back up onto the grid and then get things back underway for what is scheduled to be a 12-minute restart in this race. Now, there will be a couple of cars that are missing from this one, and just having a quick look to who we might have missing from the grid. Certainly number 18, Mark Williams, is not going to be there. He was one of the cars that was involved in the incident on the run up towards Paddock Hill Bend. We are highly unlikely to have Fraser McFadden, because we saw his car stranded at the exit of Graham Hill Bend. So let's have a quick look. There's Simon Bailey, so he is out. David Tagg is out as well, so he is continuing round. We certainly have Gavin McAlpine, because this is the green car towards the tail end of the field, but I'm not sure there were that many more after that, so it might be easier once they line up on the grid. We'll be able to pick out the gaps and see who is exactly missing, but certainly there are likely to be at least 3 cars missing. Mark Williams involved in the incident at Paddock Hill Bend. Fraser McFadden grinding to a halt for whatever reason out on the exit of Graham Hill Bend. And that car there, Dean Warriner, who was tapped into a spin down on the approach towards Graham Hill Bend, and sadly his car, I thought it might get going again, but clearly the incident caused some damage to the car, and therefore for the driver who lies third in the championship standings and was hoping to be able to close the championship gap that exists between himself and Ross Elliott and James Pinkerton, the championship leader, it is not quite going to work for him. So for Dean Warriner, he is going to have to hope that the second of the 2 races here and the 2 at Donington Park, he has the good luck, and whilst he wouldn't wish it on his fellow competitors, maybe that he outscores them and at least tries to claw back some of the deficit that is already in existence and is only going to increase once we get this race underway. Now, the race was originally scheduled to be 20 minutes. The restart for it is going to be over 12 laps, but utilising the original grid. So wait for the cars to line up on the grid, and then we should be able to get things going. In fact, I think by the look of things, they're going straight onto the green flag lap, so I think we are going to get things going this time through. I don't think they're going to line up on the grid, and we'll be away and racing potentially, looking at the safety car. So I think lights are off on the safety car. We're not going to line them back up on the grid. They've been brought out of pit lane, and we are going to get things going. So this is going to be the start of the 12 lap restart. So safety car pulls into the pit lane. They're not going to stop them on the grid and then do a green flag lap. We're going to be away and racing straight away after this one. A car on pole position, Ross Elliott, who lies second in the championship standings. Alongside him on the outside of the front row of the grid, the largely white car with the dayglow flashes to the front, is James Pinkerton, who is the championship leader coming into this one. Gaps further down through the grid, and as they get things going, both front row men match each other for pace, heading up towards Paddock Hill Bend for the first time. But Ross Elliott has the inside line, and a little bit of snatched brake there on the unloaded wheels as they turn away in towards Paddock Hill Bend for the first time. But Ross Elliott it is that takes up the lead of the race. James Pinkerton is actually now through and grabbed the lead of the race, so better run coming out of Paddock Hill Bend for James Pinkerton, who has now taken up the lead of the race, the championship leader. Ross Elliott is there in second position. And third at the moment, that looks like it's Will Hunt that's there in third place, who's got the jump on Mackenzie Walker, who's dropped down into fourth position. Yeah, so Will Hunt going really well. Mackenzie Walker's there in fourth place. It is in fifth position going to be Simon Bailey in fifth position at this stage. He's had a really good run, and Ian Cowley makes up the top six at this stage. Ian Cowley, the leading driver in the Fangio Trophy, which is for those aged over 40. He's also the leading rookie that we've got in the field as well. Will Hunt just starting to close in a little bit more on the pole sitter Ross Elliott as they head round through Hawthorne Bend, down the Derek Minter Straight and up towards Westfield Corner, but that's not really an overtaking opportunity in these very aero-dependent cars. Best opportunity would be probably to wait until you come out of Clearways Corner at the end of the lap and then maybe have a nibble at Paddock Hill Bend or save it until Druids. But all of this is just allowing James Pinkerton to pull away, and it's three cars now for second, third and fourth position that are together. Ross Elliott, then Will Hunt, and then Mackenzie Walker, not that far away as well at the wheel of the black car with its red flashes that sits there in fourth position. So lap number one about to be chalked into the book. 30-year-old from Huntingdon, James Pinkerton, leading the race and pulling away from the pole sitter Ross Elliott. The lap time for Ross Elliott was 1.1 seconds quicker in qualifying than James Pinkerton, but James Pinkerton has opened up a 3/4 of a second lead advantage in the early stages of this one, so 4 for the lead you could argue now. Pinkerton from Elliott, Hunter from Mackenzie Walker, and then in fifth position it's going to be Simon Bailey and the leading rookie Ian Cowley completing the top six. But the lead quartet for the second time turn their way through Graham Hill Bend and start to accelerate their way along the Cooper Straight up towards the left-hander at Surtees. Mackenzie Walker having a quick look at the inside of Will Hunt for third position. Nothing doing now, so the order still remains the same between the top four as they then start to accelerate their way through Pilgrim's Drop and then down Hawthorne Hill. This is the fight for fifth and sixth position that's going on. Simon Bailey under attack from the leading rookie that we've got in the field, the number 34 car in the hands of Ian Cowley, the 42-year-old from Leicester. See the novice cross on the back of his car, suggesting that he's competed in less than 6 races so far. Get a signature in each race that you finish, but he's still got that yellow square with the black cross through the centre, indicating he's still awaiting those first 6 signatures on his racing licence. Now on this lap, James Pinkerton now has started to gap the trio behind again once more. He's gone quicker through the middle part of the lap than anybody has gone so far. The lead advantage was just under 3/4 of a second at the start of the lap, but it certainly looks as though it's grown more than that now, as we still have Ross Elliott, followed by Will Hunt, and then Mackenzie Walker completing the top 4. And yeah, first flying lap, fastest lap of the race to James Pinkerton, 1:33.042, increasing the lead advantage to almost 1.3 seconds as Will Hunt has a quick look up the inside of Ross Elliott, the pole sitter. Nothing doing there, and if anything, that's now compromised his run coming off through Druids and dropped in a little bit more into the clutches of Mackenzie Walker, but he deals with that potential attack and they settle down again into the order that they were for second, third and fourth position. Good fight it is. Now that they're just squabbling, it's just allowing again James Pinkerton to pull away through the first sector of this lap again. He's just edged out by another 1/10 of a second. Will Hunt under attack from Mackenzie Walker for third place. He's looking for the inside line at Hawthorne's, trying to squeeze his way through, side by side, almost through Hawthorne's bend. Good driving from both of them. They give each other just about enough room, but it's still the car of Will Hunt that hangs on to third position. Despite the very close attentions of Mackenzie Walker, he couldn't quite unlock the door to a podium spot there. So flicking their way through Sheen Curve up towards the left-hander at Stirling's, and then down the short straight that brings them up towards Clearways and Clark Curve, the final corner on the 2.4332 mile lap of the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. 7 minutes to go as Will Hunt attacks for second place and squeezes his way through. That puts Ross Elliott, the pole sitter, offline, and Mackenzie Walker is able to muster through as well. So Ross Elliott didn't do a great deal wrong there, but all of a sudden he's bumped not from second down to third, but from third down to fourth position. So a change of order now. It is going to be the car of Will Hunt that now moves up into second position. Mackenzie Walker is there in third place, and Ross Elliott now drops down into fourth position, I'm afraid to say. Now that Will Hunt is up to second, what can he do about pulling away from the cars that were behind him? Now, certainly for Ross Elliott, he had the pace in qualifying. He was 1.1 seconds quicker than anybody in qualifying, but the number 52 car in the hands of the man from Peterborough just seems to have gone off the boil a little bit come race pace. Still got Simon Bailey sitting there in fifth position. Now Mackenzie Walker is attacking for second place up the inside of Will Hunt, gets the tow heading out of Stirling's, and he's able to, out of Surtees rather, he's able to muster his way through on the run down in towards Hawthorne. And now up into second place for Mackenzie Walker. That is a great move from him to be able to grab that position away. Mackenzie Walker's best result so far this season came at Snetterton in the second of the two races there, where he finished in third position. Well, he's now up into second and is under attack from the car that he's just taken it away from, Will Hunt. Through the left-hander at Stirling's, down the straight and in towards Clearways corner. All of this just allowing James Pinkerton to manage the gap in the lead. It's 1.5 seconds the gap first to second place. Fastest lap of the race is now with Mackenzie Walker, but James Pinkerton just breaks that and goes quicker. 1 minute 32.074 now from James Pinkerton, meaning that the lead advantage is 1.9 seconds first to second place. Towards the braking area for Druids. Mackenzie Walker having to work hard at the wheel of his car to try and hang on to the position. Will Hunt an ever-present danger at this stage. Mid-corner there, a bit of correction though from Will Hunt. Pitched the car into the corner, just looked as though there was a tiny bit of turn-in understeer that he had to correct midway through. So I'm not sure Will Hunt is entirely happy with the handling of his car just as yet. Again, just runs a little bit wide there, coming out of Surtees corner, onto the curbs and a little bit of the grass, so that will drop him slightly further away from Mackenzie Walker. And down in fourth place and not making any inroads, just becoming ever more distant now, is the pole sitter Ross Elliott, who'll be wondering exactly what's happened to the car between qualifying and the race. From pole position down to fourth position and dropping away all of the time. So 4.5 minutes to go up towards Sheen Curve and then on towards the left-hander at Stirling's. Will Hunt desperately trying to catch up with Mackenzie Walker. Mackenzie Walker has now managed to catch James Pinkerton. Mackenzie Walker, already with the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 31.849, has now gone quicker through the first and the second sectors than anybody has in this race. And the lead advantage that was 1.5 seconds at the start of this lap is going to be at least half of that, I would have thought. Over the start-finish line they'll go. Mackenzie Walker surely yet with a new fastest lap of the race. 1 minute 31.162 for Mackenzie Walker, bringing the lead advantage down by a full second on that lap. It's now down to just 0.4 of a second between himself and James Pinkerton, the championship leader. Mackenzie Walker comes into this weekend lying fourth in the championship as a result of his performances both at Snetterton and at Oulton Park. After Brands Hatch we head to the East Midlands and Donington Park for the final two races, but Mackenzie Walker is already in a position that would give him his best result of the season, but the way he's going, that is not going to be good enough for him. He wants that first win if he can in the Radical SR1 Cup. Pushing hard, he'll get the tow as they head out of Surtees, but he's not going to be close enough by the time they head in towards Hawthorne's this time through. So first and second place still together. Mackenzie Walker again will try and pick up a bit more of the tow as they head up towards the very fast right-hander at Westfield, where the cars take all of the curb on the inside of the corner and try and get off the corner quickly and carry all of that momentum up towards the next section of the circuit. Now there's Ian Cowley. Ian Cowley was having a battle with Simon Bailey. Now it looks as though he's lost a position there, Ian Cowley. That's number 95, David Tagg, that's gone through. Yeah, indeed it is. So the most experienced Radical SR1 race we've got in the field, number 95, David Tagg now, working his way in towards the top 6. David's been part of this championship for 4 years now. First appeared in the Radical SR1 Cup in 2017 and is hounding Simon Bailey for 5th position. So 5th, 6th and 7th places altogether. Now for David Tagg, that not only moves him up a position, that will also put him into the lead of the Fangio category as well for those drivers aged over 40. Leading 3 together, 2.5 minutes to go, so on to the penultimate lap of the race. James Pinkerton still having a slender margin between himself and 27, which is Mackenzie Walker in 2nd place. There's just 0.4 of a second between the pair of them, and 0.5 of a second back from Mackenzie Walker is Will Hunt, so it's all rather close. And of course it's the man up front that's creating the hole in the air and allowing the cars behind to sit in his slipstream and grab the tow, and that will allow them to close in again as they start to head down Pilgrim's Drop, Hawthorne Hill, and up towards the very fast right-hander at Hawthorne's. Top 3 still together. Down in 4th position is Ross Elliott, who really has got nothing he can offer up to the pace that the top 3 have got. Led very briefly, but since losing the lead of the race and dropping from 1st to 2nd and 2nd to 3rd really in all the same move, he really has just not had the pace at this stage, so they'll be maybe just looking into what they might be able to do to get a bit more pace out of that car for race number 2 that's coming up a little bit later on. So out of Stirling's and starting to head along the straight in towards Clearways Corner. They'll be starting their last lap of the race this time through. Now Mackenzie Walker is going to be seeing whether there's any chink in the armour he can expose to James Pinkerton, the championship leader. James looking for maximum championship points, 40 points for a race win, 35 points if you're second. There are 30 if you are in 3rd place, and that's where Will Hunt is at the moment, but the fight is most definitely on for the lead of the race. Mackenzie Walker too far away as they head up towards Druids for the final time, but the London-based engineer looking to try and close in on James Pinkerton, the man from Huntingdon. Is there another opportunity where he might be able to grab the place? Nothing doing as they head through the left-hander at Graham Hill Bend for the final time. It's all about momentum in these cars as well. You've got plenty of aerodynamics, but you've got to keep the momentum going as well, because it's just a 1340cc Suzuki engine, RPE tuned, Radical Performance Engines tuning the cars for all of the cars in the category. So very much driver ability. Everybody has identical equipment. Clock almost down to 0. Will be by the time they head over the start-finish line next time through. So for James Pinkerton, just needs to hang on. Remember, our race leader is the only driver that has already won more than one race. We've had 4 rounds already. He won 2 of them. So he's the only driver with a couple of wins under his belt, and at the moment he's looking to try and make it a hat-trick of wins. Will Hunt in 3rd place, almost ran a little bit wide there, right the way out to the very edge of the circuit. Thought the tail end of the car was maybe going to head on towards the grass, but managed to gather it up. 1 corner to go, clock has ticked to 0 through the left-hander. Will Hunt again running very wide there in 3rd place, just needs to be careful that he doesn't go beyond the circuit limits, otherwise a time penalty could be heading his way. But looks as though the top 3 are all settled, and it looks as though James Pinkerton is going to come through and claim top honours in the first of our Radical SR1 Cup races here today at Brands Hatch. James Pinkerton claims the win, with Mackenzie Walker finishing in 2nd place, his best result of the 2020 season, and picking up the extra championship point that goes with the fastest lap as well, posting it with a 1 minute 31.162 for Mackenzie Walker. So 2nd place, but the extra championship point for fastest lap gives him 36 points compared to the 40 that James Pinkerton picks up for the win. 3rd position goes the way of Will Hunt, 4th place goes the way of number 52, which is Ross Elliott. David Tagg came through to finish in 5th place in the end for David Tagg, therefore he is the leading driver that we've got in the Fangio Cup for those aged 40 and over. In 6th position was number 34, which was the car of Ian Cowley, so he'll be the leading rookie that we have had home. And as the cars then start to work their way in towards the pit lane area, we are hoping we might be able to grab a quick word with the top 3 drivers, but I think the way they're positioned in the paddock, they will be heading straight towards the Parc Ferme area, so we won't get the opportunity to chat to the drivers, I'm afraid, for this one. So as the last few cars trickle their way over the start-finish line, let's just confirm the results in our first Radical SR1 Cup race of the weekend here at Brands Hatch. So the results are: win goes the way of James Pinkerton. In 2nd position it is Mackenzie Walker, and 3rd place is Will Hunt. 4th place goes the way of Ross Elliott, with David Tagg finishing in 5th place and being the first of the Fangio category drivers home. 6th place goes the way of number 34, which is Ian Cowley. He's the leading rookie. 7th place is where we see Sam Ashworth. 8th place is Simon Bailey, and 9th was the number 22 car, which was that car in the hands of Andy Lowe. Completing the top 10 was Ian Ellis. Gavin McAlpine was in 11th place, and the last of the finishers, number 24, Paul Clark, finished in 12th position. So that gives you the full results for our first Radical SR1 Cup race. Don't forget, we've got more Radical racing coming up here over the course of this weekend at Brands Hatch. We will have a further race for the Radical SR1 Cup later on this afternoon, but prior to that we will also have our first of 3 races this weekend, only one of them today though, for the Radical Challenge Championship. Join us for those later on.